Hello guys, today I just have a small video. I saw a post on Facebook from a user. I'll just bring it up here. And he says, I have a question on when to convert bodies to components. In the drawing below I have a few separate sketches that, when extruded, etc., becomes bodies. These pieces will all be cut individually out of steel, so are all separate bodies. And as I progress, I create sketches on the bodies to make further bodies. However, if I have to move one of them for alignment reasons, such as when one has a dimension change, for example, the subsequent sketches are no longer aligned. This means that the amendments to those sketches has me doing them again. My understanding is that if I convert every body to a component after it is made solid, then the sketch will move with it. That sounds like an unnecessary extra step for each part. Is the best method to convert each body to a component as soon as it is made? Now, you do. I just want to sort of make a video to sort of explain how I would do this. And first of all, no, sketches do not follow bodies. Sketches basically convert a specific body to its own container. And you can only do this in some of the work areas, like if you're in a solid part environment, you cannot make components. You can only make parts. If you're in an assembly or hybrid solution, you can make components and parts and use them together with each other. Now, I usually start in hybrid because that's the old design that Fusion uses. And then you have the ability to make parts. So I'm just going to show you now how I would do this, and I'm going to explain along the way. So I am going to start with the biggest part here, which is the main part. It will basically be almost like a triangle with cut off ends. Okay, so we'll start with that, and I'll make sure it is even by just making a square at first. So I'm just going to hide that for now, and I'm going to show you. So I'll use the origin plane to have a solid reference at first, and I'll wash it from the right. I'll create a sketch there. And then I'll make a square from the center point of the origin plane. I'll just set it to 50 and then let's say 35. No, 50, 35, 100. Let's make it 100 just to be sure. Okay. And the original sketch had some steep slope. Okay, I'll make this a bit smaller. Let's see, 30. Okay. And the slope of the original one has all the way to the edges, so I'll just go from the edges here and just make lines. There, I'll use the center point here to the center point there. Center point. And center point there. Now you want to cut a bit off the top, so I'll just use the center point between these two. So what I do here is I make a, if you press and hold, you will see that I made a construction line here, and that is so I can find the middle point of that section. And I'll go there and I'll do this, make that into a solid. Then I'll just create a mirror of that. I'll select this one and press OK. There, now I got the section I want to extrude. So I'll use this. Actually, I don't just need those two as references. And then I'll make a construction line going from there to the other side. Then I'll select the one I made in the middle. I'll make that a solid. Okay, so now we have the basic shape. I'll finish that and I'll extrude that. I'll extrude it equal in both directions. Distance, one side, symmetric. Let's make it 2 millimeters. Let's make it 5 so we can have some. Let's make it 3. I think that's enough. Okay. So now we basically have the first part of the part that he's talking about. Okay. So the way I see it, to make these parts here, the best way is to use what we call planes, and you do that by going into this section here, where you have the ability to make planes on surfaces or lines or whatever. So we'll just use an offset plane for now. And then we'll select the surface where we want that. I'll make an offset plane here. I'll select 0, so I make it on the edge. Actually, the other one had inside here, so I'll make it half that. I can go and edit that. Edit minus 1.5, because it looks like here, looks like he wait, I'll go and do that step again, because I had the construction planes. I'll select the edge and then I'll click construct. Then you get a construction plane. I'll set it to minus 1.5 millimeters because I want it to start halfway in. And then I'll right click on that plane and I'll select create sketch. And then you basically create a sketch on the plane you created. Then I'll make a small square. Actually, what you can do now to centralize it is to press P for project, and then you select line type is construction up here and OK. Then you get a constructed plane. Then you can basically go and do like this, and then you find the exact middle here. Then you can go in and say, okay, I want to make a square using the exact middle. Then you can go there. You can say I want it this big, but in your case you want it a little bit bigger, so I want to make it 20. Okay. Forgot to set that as solid. Okay, so now you have a square that starts in the middle. And now I can press extrude, E for extrude, one side symmetric, and I make that distance 3 millimeters both ways. But don't use cut and don't use join. You select new body, and then you get a new body that's in the middle. And if you look under here, you have two bodies, this one and this one. Now, if you want to achieve what you had before, you can do a separate sketch as well. So if you go back to that plane, I can hide that body for now. I can go back to that plane, I can make a new sketch. Actually, I just make it here. So I'll just go back to that, create a new sketch, and I'll just project that as its own. Okay. And finish sketch. And then I'll just go here. And then you can see you have this sketch here. And now I can go here. And I can select OK. E for extrude. Then I open that body. And then I cut through it. OK. That has to be symmetrical, of course. So now you have a hole through the object. And then I can re-add the other one. Starting to look something like it, and then you can just fill out the edges. Like so. Okay. And then since you're already in the sketch, you can go back here, edit. Let's say you want some holes. The easiest way to make the holes is to put them on these lines you put before. Just make a circle there. Let's make it 3. And to be able to just have to adjust that one, you can just go create. I'll just go and make a line here and a line there. So create mirror there. Let's see this one. Create mirror and use that as a line. Okay. Then we can take this and we make a new mirror. And we select the other line I made here. Okay, so now you have the center holes. Finish sketch. Then we hide the main body. Then we show the sketch again. That was the second sketch. And I'll just hide those. E for extrude. And I just set it to be go through and I select cut. And you get a message saying no body found. Okay, but once you select that specific body, you can see that it cuts through it. Now we have the holes. See? And now you have the body. So whenever you now want to make changes to this specific part, you can do that from this component. Now the thing to remember is that if you subdivide this one into a component, you can still go and edit the original part. So let's see, I want to subdivide this one into its own component, create components from bodies. Now this one has become its own component. It's no longer part of the main sketch. So if I go here, you see you get this small dot. If you click that one, you see you have your new timeline here that you can work on. But the thing is, in parametric timelining, it always remembers what you do previously. So if you want to make any changes to this, you can just click the main body that you had here, the main component, then you get the full timeline. And you can go back to the exact body that you have. Remember, this one was 3 millimeters on the hole, so I'm just going to use that as an example. And in this case, I'll just adjust the size to 5 millimeters if I want that. Finish. Okay. You see automatically the size of the holes increased in that specific position, even if you have the part in a new component. Okay, so this one has been updated by the settings you made earlier in your settings. So one of the questions the guy had was, I want to make changes to one of my parts that I made into a component. Then I need to redo everything. No, you do not. You can make changes to that part in the past. And it will update to the new part that you already have. So let's say I want to rotate this, just as an example. Because now that you have a part, you can select move, Okay, so now it wants to actually I don't want to do that. You can go to the component. You see you have an anchor here. You can right click and you take unground from parent. That will basically release its reference to the parent, but it should still receive updates. So if you go to the original sketch you had here, take edit sketch, then you're editing that sketch before you did the change of the parent. So if I go back to this and I set it to 3 millimeters again and finish the sketch, you can see that later in the timeline, even though I ungrounded it, it still gets the updates of the part. But there is a big thing here now. Now I can go and move it, and I no longer get the error saying that this is reference to the other model, you cannot do anything, because I ungrounded it from the parent. So in this case, I can go and I can say, okay, I want to rotate it 90 degrees. Okay, capture position. Now I have rotated it 90 degrees, and I decide, okay, I want to make 2 extra holes in this part, but I don't want to make any new sketches. It's not a problem. You can go back to the original sketch you had in your timeline in the other part. You just right click it in the timeline and set edit sketch. And let's say I want to just find the exact middle here. I can say, okay, I want to use construction planes. So I just use construction planes between these two. And then I find the middle and I make a small square like this. I'll make that without construction planes. It's just easier like that. Square with a middle point like this. I want to have a square there because I have a different object. I want to fit it now that I rotated it. So I make that 4 by 4 just to have it synchron. And you should always make sure that they are grounded. So now you see everything is black, which means it's locked in place. Then you take this new body you made, create mirror, select mirror line. That would be the old one you made earlier. Okay. And then finish sketch. And now you see you have got a new section here that has holes in it. Because it also intersects with the middle, you have now got some extra space. I'll make the holes smaller so you can actually just see. And in this case, I only made one of them, so 2 and 2. But in this case, to just have one to reference, I can just say, okay, this is D18. If you hold your mouse over it, you get D18, and then you can say, okay, D18. Then you have a square, okay? And now you will see that it moved a bit out of alignment. Then you can go back. There. I'm just going back in the timeline, undoing changes I made. So I'll just reference these first. Okay. And then I'll make a new square. There. I'll make it 2 by 2. Okay. And then I'll mirror that one. Mirror, select this. I select this line as the mirror line. Okay. Finish. And it still has a shortcut somewhere. I actually think that's a bug. It's still remembering me doing an extrude, which I didn't do. So that is weird, because the extrude is not on the timeline. So let's see. Let's see if that can have something to do with grounding the component. So now it is. So now we're back to seeing that the component has been grounded. Okay, I'll try and make the change now. Let's see. I'll go in here to the original sketch. I'll do the same thing. I'll just dimension that first. L. Then I'll make a new square. I want it centralized on that. So 2 by 2. Okay, so there I have created it now, and I finish the sketch. Now it seems. Okay, so I think we found out then that if I hide this one, gonna extrude that symmetrical and select cut, and then we bring out the body. Okay, then you get it to the new one. You can also, I think, in this case, you can see that we have the thingy here. But if I go back in the timeline, before I did that, then I could ungroup it. I could ungroup it after I did that. So let's see if that works. Ungroup from parent. And if I go back in the timeline, it is still ungrouped. That would have been better if Fusion made it so that it didn't ungroup globally. So if you want to keep the ability to do changes to your model, don't ungroup it if you want to add features to it. What you can do then later on is you can make new planes at the same spot, and then you can project planes. Let's say I can click plane and then select the ground plane, which is the original one, which I have here, construction plane there, and press OK. Now you get a clone of that plane, and you can put it in the other section. So don't show that, but now you have plane here. You can create a sketch, and you can do P for project and OK. Now if we hide the bodies and all these two sketches, oh, cannot project it there. I need to have selected that model and that plane, create sketch, P for project, okay. Now you get a sketch here, which is only the projected plane of that model. You can hide the other ones. This one you see here is actually the template, and you can create additional changes to that easily. So anyway, I thought I would just make a video to try and show a little bit about how to deal with components and such. Now, if you make a copy of the component like it did when I did the error, I cannot guarantee that it keeps all the changes, because it may actually start from scratch, sort of, without remembering anything you did to the original model, unless you sort of go back in the timeline and hide it and do the changes. But if you ungroup from parent the components, then you cannot edit and get the reflected changes from the past to the new ones. So anyway, I hope that was helpful, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.